Today on How It's Made, we explore a car's brake job. In today's fast-paced society, the need for cars has grown every day. This year, over 282 million cars are on the road. Brakes are one of the most commonly repaired parts on any consumer car. They are what keeps every driver safe, and without them, the roads would be a much scarier place. This is what a brand new rotor looks like, and here are its accompanying brake pads. We start off our journey with this auto mechanic inspecting the brake assembly on a customer's car. He feels the rotor for any irregularities or movement. He then identifies the 4 bolts he'll need to remove, the left 2 being the bracket bolts, and the right 2 being the caliper bolts. Once the proper tools have been sourced, he begins loosening the emergency brake with a flathead screwdriver through a small access hole. Then, he loosens the caliper and bracket bolts. Lots of hand dexterity is needed for a job like this. Now that the bracket is removed, our worker moves on to his workstation to prep the bracket for new hardware and brake pads. He inspects the caliper bolt to ensure that they still move. Then he removes them and cleans them to be relubricated. On this step, the worker cleans the entire bracket with a wire brush, being sure to get off all the rust from the contact points where the brake pads will slide in and out of the bracket. Here you can see the rotor being removed. This is what a bad rotor looks like, caked in rust and worn to bits. A new rotor is unpackaged. It's very important to keep this new rotor clean, as any debris can cause a brake failure. Now our worker lubricates the sliding bolts. And installs them in the new bracket. Next, our worker inspects the caliper piston. He uses a special tool to compress it so that it may be reinstalled over the new pads. The last prepping needed is the lubrication of the brake pads. Though this may sound like the opposite of what you want to do with new brake pads, the contact points, like the back and sides, must be generously lubricated to allow for a smooth compression and braking force. Here you can see our worker popping in the new pad. Now that the pads have been installed, you can reinstall the caliper. And begin tightening everything down. Now that everything is tightened to perfection and the rotor is clean, our worker reinstalls the original wheel back onto the rotor and uses an impact gun to torque all the lug nuts firmly onto the wheel. And there you have it, a finished brake job.